here at installment number 3, and we're going to talk a little bit. If you didn't catch any of our first reviews that we did a review on the Mantis Laser Academy, we did a review on the X10 Elite system, and today we're going to talk a little bit about kind of the compare and contrast between the two. We've probably put close to like 800-900 shots downrange, whether it was with our AR platform, with our handgun, and so we've got a chance to really kind of compare and contrast a little bit of them, and we just thought what we would do is kind of talk about things we liked between the two of them, maybe some differences between them, try and find where there's value points to either sell you on one or the other or both. And so I guess let's just start there. What was your first impression going through these?
I think it's cool. It's way cool. It'll save you a ton of money on ammo to just go through those dry fire drills, where traditionally, if you're using a pistol and you want to work on barrel control and things like that, they'll tell you to put a penny on the barrel and work on your trigger control. Well, this actually allows you to work on that and work on target acquisition, or different draw scenarios, whether it's coming out of a holster or you're working on identifying specific targets. So that piece is really cool. Obviously, having the laser there gives you the visual guidance of where that shot is being placed. And then the X10 just gives you the flexibility to really put it into any platform, right? The laser one, the one that we've got, is a 9mm, which happens to be your pistol, which is the M&P. And then the X10 gives you the opportunity to put it onto anything, right? Anything that's got a Picatinny rail, right? So this X10 I've got on my AR platform here, using the barrel adjustment. You can put it on a bull barrel if you've got a hunting rifle. Obviously, this is the AR platform. And you can, if your pistol doesn't have an AR or a Picatinny rail on the bottom, they actually give you a connection piece that you can actually put it on your magazine and attach the X10 to it. So it gives you a ton of flexibility there, and it makes training a lot of fun, right? It gives you the gaming scenarios. I actually really love this one. It was challenging because it makes you think number, it makes you think shape, and it makes you think color, and it gives you variations in terms of difficulty there. And it just makes training fun, and it makes it effective, and it makes it extremely cost efficient.
Yeah, I think for me, kind of going back to that, I found that there was a level of anxiety that using the hunt feature with that target really heightens where you need to be in terms of being able to identify a target, shoot the proper target, and then most importantly, obviously, tracking your accuracy. And the cool thing I thought was being able to adjust some of the par times and those types of things, where you're really going to have to be able to get shots off in predetermined amount of times. You could determine what those actually look like. We've actually talked about some scenarios where we've looked at statistics with like bear attacks and charges, and we've watched things whether it's on other YouTube channels or things like that, and there's some really specific ways that if you wanted to dial these things down, or if you're a competitive shooter or whatever that might be, this gives you the versatility to be able to do any of those.
Right. And it doesn't have to be, have a hunting application to it, right? If you've got a CCW and you want to just practice your draws or just practice firing, but you can't get to the range, or you don't have the ammo. If you're a female and this is something that you pride yourself on, is protecting yourself or being able to protect yourself, because of the flexibility of the platform, it allows you to do all that training from the comfort of your couch, at your house, or at your kitchen table, or in your basement, wherever the training scenario for you might happen. But like with bear attacks, right? It's quick draws from the hip. Can you practice that? Absolutely. Can you get used to the mechanic of that, the muscle memory of getting the gun out of the holster into where you want it to be? If you carry it in a chest rig, can you pull it out and put it on target? So all of those scenarios play in, and the flexibility of both systems give you that option, where this one gives you more of the visual piece, and this one is more, I would say, more along the lines of the accuracy and training scenario, and the flexibility for all the different types of scenarios that you can use.
For sure. And I think one of the things that I tried to do right away was there's the basic marksmanship courses that kind of accompany both. They have some very similar feels to both of them, but the way that Mantis has done that is they've kind of created them in this progressive approach, which is that you're going to start with super simple things. It works your way up. I know when I got to the X10 Elite stuff, it was much more challenging, just based on the way that you have to be able to execute certain shots in a certain amount of time, and then the accuracy.
And it's scoring you on accuracy and quickness and all those things. And,
without question.
And there's so many different scenarios in there too. And I think when you were going through the marksmanship course, it actually made you shoot like 100 shots, right, just to get a baseline. And then obviously the feedback of where your muzzle is, and you can actually watch your barrel as you're trying to get to your target acquisition, so that you can train on being able to acquire that target a lot faster, so you can actually see the travel. Maybe you start high and you drip down into your hold, or maybe you start low and come up into your hold. Everybody's got a different preference in terms of what's their comfort level, and then obviously what gives them the most accuracy with quickness.
Yeah, I think. And the parallel that I drew was with us doing a lot of archery work, which we're going to get to yet. We're going to still have another review on the attachment with this guy here, and connecting it to our bow was that starting to gain some comfort with a little bit of that float, right? And knowing that, it's nearly impossible to just be rock solid, no movement, everything dead on, and learning how to utilize what they give you in terms of feedback. I think the cool part for me was, in the past, I've had people that, the guy that says, oh man, try this, oh hey, do this, right? And this thing is capable both in terms of being able to give you what are you doing mechanically, am I healing it, right? Am I too heavy on the trigger? Am I too light on the trigger, right? Like all these other things, and then it says, here's strategies to fix it. Here's what you should be doing positionally in order to correct some of these things, so that you've got a way to actually, rather than, it's kind of, I think, like golfing, right? Like in golfing, everybody has a tip, right? Like everybody's like, oh, try this, do this. And this thing is really giving you more of an objective kind of standpoint of what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong, as opposed to the armchair quarterback who's like, oh well, this is what I do and it works. Like that doesn't really necessarily.
But I think there are, when it comes to shooting, and you can talk to NRA instructors and guys that have done this for a living, is that there are rock solid fundamentals to executing a good shot. And I think what this system does is it gives you the feedback on, maybe you're slapping the trigger or anticipating recoil or whatever it might be, and it gives you some muscle memory on when you get ready, or when you've got your target acquisition ready to go. How can you control it where you're not anticipating the recoil, or you're not getting quick on the trigger, slapping it, or whatever it might be. So, and it's just like, if we use your golf analogy, right? There's a million different ways to swing a golf club, but there are checkpoints in the swing that you have to get to in order to have a good shot. It's the same thing with this, right? It's, it starts with how you hold the gun, right? Then it gets to your acquisition part. Everybody might, you might come down, you might come up. Then it comes to the pull, right? And we all know that pull's got to be smooth and consistent before you get a clean trigger break. And so if you slap it, you're going to get a mistake. If you anticipate the recoil, you're going to have a mistake, and that's what this system is going to do. It gives you that feedback, and then it shows you correctives on how to make sure that you don't do that next time.
For sure. So talk about, I think, some of the things that maybe are a little bit more so, I would say, advantageous from this side compared to this side, because I think there's a couple in my mind where I would say, well, if I wanted to do this, I would maybe lean a little bit more towards this side as opposed to this. Like, what are some of those?
I think if you like the visual side of things, being able to, and you have the laser in here, right? Being able to put the laser in there, in your chamber, and then being able to see the target as you're going through your progressions, and maybe you keep a laser on your piece that you carry. That visual piece, I think, helps you with quicker target acquisition versus this one doesn't give you that. So now you're using your optics, whether you're using iron sights or you're using a reticle like I've got here. I think this one is obviously small and compact. It comes in a small box. You can put it in your pocket, take it to the range. This one, there's a few more pieces to it. Obviously, you've got the stand for your phone that you can take all the shooting scenarios into account for, and these are a little bit smaller, a little bit more compact versus the rifle setup, which has a lot bigger targets and maybe some different kinds of gameplay.
Yeah, and I think even kind of playing off that, the cool thing about the X10 Elite is I don't necessarily have to have a tripod. I don't have to have things set up. It's basically just running off of the sensor itself. And so all that I have to do is make sure that that thing's calibrated. And like you said, I could be in my kitchen and just, choose the coffee mug, choose whatever.
Right.
And, there's a part of that I think can be helpful. For me personally, I think that in terms of my focus level, I always like to have a target.
Right.
And I think that in using the Laser Academy, that was one aspect of it that I really liked. And as you said, having that feedback where there's that split second where I see that laser and where it lands. Mm-hmm. And before I even look to see, what was the quality of that shot, I get a feel for, was that good? Mm-hmm. Was that bad? There were shots multiple times that I took where as I'm pulling, I can see actually some movement in that laser, and those types of things give me some indication that I did something probably not very effective. But I like that aspect of it, and I think ultimately between the two, I can see such useful application between both of them where, number one, like you said, just amount of actual shots in the time that we've had to actually kind of explore both of these is probably 100% above what I would have at this point based on my schedule, my travel, all these other things.
And cost. Ammunition costs right now are through the roof, and they're hard to find.
Yeah.
Especially, popular calibers, 9mm, 223, 5.56, really hard to find right now because there's a massive demand and not enough supply.
Right.
So being able to do all of this without spending money on ammunition or spending time and resources trying to source out that ammunition allows you to do all your training and still keep your supply that you would normally have on hand.
Right. And I think a couple of the things that are cool with the X10 is, if we have the opportunity to get out to the range, I can still use the same thing, right? There's a recoil meter on there, which I think is super helpful.
Right.
Learning how to handle the recoil, right? Which now I can go from maybe my dry fire practice to actual, using live rounds, which is fantastic.
Which is what you can do with this one, right? With the X10, you can do that. With the Laser Academy, obviously, if you've got the laser inside the barrel, you're not able to shoot live rounds. Also might be a safety issue, right? If you're practicing at home and maybe you just want to get used to having the ammunition in the magazine that's actually in the gun, so you get used to that weight, having that laser in there won't allow a bullet to rack into the chamber, right? Versus this system, obviously we practice without any kind of magazine in there or any kind of live ammunition in there. So the safety factor on this, if you are running a magazine, obviously you got to make sure your barrel's clear and there's no ammunition loaded. Whereas this one, you're putting that laser in there, and there's no other physical way for another round to chamber itself.
For sure, yeah. And I think some of the things that we had, maybe in terms of a few learning curve pieces was as we ran through the Laser Academy system, making sure your lighting with your phone and all that stuff, it has to be able to pick up these QR codes on all of your targets. And I like the fact that you can use multiples and that it will track, as many of those targets as you have out there. But at the same time, it's definitely hypersensitive. I think we found that out, which is if you're, I would anticipate even in, windy situations where if that phone's moving at all, it's going to constantly try and continue to recalibrate. And I don't know that that's a bad thing as much as it is you just have to be in a really pretty stable area.
I think it's great for indoor practice.
Yeah,
obviously out at the range you might have some issues there, but the indoor practice, again, if you're in a controlled environment, being able to put the phone on the tripod, and the one that we were using in our test was a little janky and had some wiggle and give to it. This tripod's going to be a lot more stable, obviously shorter legs, but you're also going to have to work on where is that thing mounted so that I can actually see what my progress is or see what the cues that program is giving me.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, I think between the two, if you were to say, hey, which one should I go with? I think it's really difficult based on, I think there's some priority.
Yeah, I mean, if it were me, I go the X10 system. That would be my choice, and the reason being is that there's flexibility. It doesn't matter what caliber or what type of gun that you are shooting, right? I could shoot it with a long rifle, I could shoot it with a pistol. It doesn't matter if I shoot a 9 or a 45 or a 380, or if I'm shooting 223 or 308 or anything bigger than that, right? This system will calibrate to all of them, right? Versus the Laser Academy, you're going to be locked into whatever that caliber of laser that you purchased with the system. Obviously, we have a 9mm here, but there is space for 380 and 45, along with some other popular calibers in there as well. So, if it was just flexibility, you want to practice with all your guns, X10. If there's one specific gun that you feel like maybe it's your carry piece, or maybe it's your something that you take out into the woods with you, and it's a different caliber, I would go with the Laser Academy. Obviously, as from a pistol standpoint, that's probably going to be the most effective option for you.
Yeah, and I think both of them provide you with really good ability in terms of that feedback piece, which is, I think, the most important part. I'm a huge fan of being able to actually see and track through the use of the X10, where I can see where my muzzle movement is and those types of things. I feel like for me that's super helpful, and at the same time, some of the ability here, when you think about, for example, if I have the X10 on, some of the holstering options are virtually, you really can't accomplish.
Yeah, unless you're carrying a normal laser and there's room in your holster for it. Putting that underneath the barrel makes it difficult to work on holster work.
Yeah, so that would be the one caveat to me where if I was going to do any of that type of work, or if that was important to me and you want to try and work on that, sure, you could simulate those things. Everybody can, find.
There's also the magazine attachment too. So
sure.
If it's a holstering issue with the muzzle, the magazine attachment allows you to still work on that draw with the X10 system versus the Laser Academy system.
Right. So right out of the box, you can see there's a lot of different ways that you can find functionality within these. We are absolutely pumped that the amount of actual work that we've been able to do, just in exploration, but in that process, just learning, right? Like, I've learned so much about some of the things that I do, and then at the same time, just like anything else, it's just like anything you would practice, right? The more opportunity and the more consistency we have. I remember going through the X10 Elite, the basic marksmanship course. It doesn't let you off the hook. So the second phase of the basic marksmanship course in the X10 says, all right, great job on phase 1. Phase 2 is shoot a minimum of 20 rounds for the next 4 days. Yep. So it's going to develop, or it's going to ask you to start actually, hey, we're going to expect you to do some work.
It's developing your training habits, right? It's forcing you to practice, which is what we all need. You allocate 15, 20, or 30 minutes a day to going through that course, and you're going to be a better shooter because of it.
Yeah.
And like Joel found out, he sucks with the pistol.
Yeah.
And obviously much better with the rifle, so his concentration is going to be on his marksmanship with his pistol.
Most definitely. So, but we hope that you guys found both of these reviews super helpful, and kind of having this discussion, a little dialogue, kind of gives you that compare and contrast between the two systems. We think they're both fantastic. I would say that if you would like, or if you're capable, having both of them won't hurt you at all, because there is some nuance between the two of them. The opportunity to live fire with the X10 is great, where I can do both, as Jason said, and at the same time, the next part of this for us is going to be, we're going to use the adapter from the X10 Elite, and we're going to connect to our bow, which is going to be super, super cool. And Mantis has an additional app that coincides with the X10 Elite system that is designated strictly for archery. So we're going to bring that to you next. If you haven't seen any of the other individual reviews from the Laser Academy or the X10 Elite, be sure to click on those videos. We'll provide those links for you here. And get out and shoot. Try these out. Make sure you check out the link in our description. There's a direct link there if you want to get your hands on either of these systems. We obviously value your feedback, and hope that you guys will smash that like button. We would appreciate you subscribing to our page, and we'll hope to see you guys soon, and look forward to giving you that archery review next.